show is a live broadcast of truth seekers and believers, empowering the evolution of consciousness. Rafael and Celeste will dive deeper than the mainstream media while answering the mind's deeper questions and transforming conversations. They will have unique guest speakers who will share knowledge, tools, and techniques to create coherence in our mind, body, and spirit.
Good morning from New York.
And good evening from beautiful Byron Bay here in Australia.
Love it, love it. So today we have a really cool show because we are going to talk about, wait a minute. We have somebody who's going to talk to about communication and so much more.
Yeah,
Our second time coming on our show. Should we bring her on or should we keep everybody in suspense?
No, let's bring her on.
All right. So for us, we're super excited to have Cat Valentine joining us. Welcome, Cat. How are you to this evening for you?
Oh, thank you. I am so well. It's a beautiful, technically autumn, but really summer evening here on the Gold Coast. It's beautiful.
Nice. So how have you been since we saw you last?
Oh, wow. It's been such a whirlwind. It's been extraordinary. I've been working, I've been coaching, I've been playing with my grandchildren. My daughter from Scotland's been out for a month. She's actually right now sitting at Brisbane Airport, flying back to Scotland. Right? So if I have a week,
Go for it. If I can hand you some tissues, I would.
Thank you.
But in reality, she's not far from you, right? She's in your heart always, in your mind.
She's in my heart. She's my business partner. We speak nearly every day.
Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just can't touch her.
There you go.
That's
well,
okay.
You remember that old commercial, AT&T was reach out and touch someone?
Yes. And I know we don't even have AT&T here, but I have seen that old commercial.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a very old commercial.
Yeah.
So we are very excited. You're helping us understand more on communication, and I believe that's one of the most important things that is changing so much nowadays.
I agree. I feel people are understanding that more and more. It's not what I say that's important, it's what's heard. And that the onus is on me to communicate effectively so that you actually hear the message I want you to hear. You know, and to do that, I need to understand your perspective of the world, your view of the world, your map of the world, and where you sit in it. So yeah, it takes skill, but I believe more and more people are understanding that it's a skill worth having. Yeah.
With your Catalyst Coaching Hub, which we would love you to share with everyone, the neuro-linguistic programming, that's all part in not just how we rehearse how we feel and think and how we're going to react, but it's a lot about, as you just said, the words that we speak, what kind of language, keywords, but discovering it also in a way, knowing how the other person receives those keywords, because for us it could be a very normal word, but for another person extremely triggering because of their past, and the brain is sort of that record of the past, so they might miscommunicate or receive it in the wrong way because it's sort of triggering in certain languages or certain words. So explain to us in different scenarios with your clients how they learn to change their way they express to themselves as well, positive talking to themselves, but also positive talking to other people.
Yum, I'd love to. My favorite topic.
Really? Yeah.
So Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the fact that we are bombarded every second with about 40 million bits of information. Now, if our little conscious mind tried to deal with that, we wouldn't even be able to open our eyes in the morning. We would be completely fried. So what our extraordinary unconscious mind does through a series of filters out 99.995% of that information, so that only about 0.005% gets through to the conscious mind. And even then, the conscious mind can only deal with chunks of information. So about 7 chunks of information. If you're really zen, maybe 9 chunks, but if you're really stressed, it might get down to only 2 or 3 chunks. So you can see that of everything that's happening around us, we're processing very, very little consciously. And the unconscious uses an extraordinary number of filters that we put in place, okay? Our expectations, our memories, our experiences, our mood, time and place, language. Like, for example, I think in Russia, and please don't quote me, but we have, they have many, many, many words for the word blue, but we have about half a dozen. So they get to speak more eloquently around a color. Now, one of the most powerful languages we have, filters we have, is language. And the unconscious cannot process the word don't or not. So for example, if I'm with a child and I say, don't drop that, 9 times out of 10, they're going to drop it, because I've just suggested to their unconscious what I wanted them to do. If I say, hold that safe, they'll hold it safe. If I say, don't drop that, hold that safe, then I'm letting the unconscious know what it is that they need to do. And so that's what, where language is really, really important, about saying things the way you actually want them, not the way you don't want them. So does that make sense?
Total sense.
Yeah.
Does that go then
yeah.
different age brackets a little bit as well?
Oh,
the way
when I'm
adults, or the way that you would speak to children?
With anyone, if you say, oh, don't do that, you're not actually giving them what you do want. When I speak to clients about, say, why you're here, and usually it's pain, of course. Most of us don't get help until the pain is so bad that we have no choice. And I'll say, what do you want? And most of the time people don't know. They know what they don't want. And the thing is, if you're focused on what you don't want and you're looking over your shoulder the whole time at what you don't want, you have no idea where you're going or how to actually articulate what you do want and set that goal to move forward. So being able to have words around goals that move you toward what you want is really, really important, because then the unconscious goes, because if you are just, words 100% are energy, right? Absolutely. If I say, I hate that, that's like a stab in the heart. But if I go, I really don't like that, I really, really don't like that, I have a really strong feeling about that, right? I'm not denying my feelings, but I'm not using words that set up a negative vibration in me. The same word, that's so hard. If a child is sitting there going, I can't do this, it's so hard, you need to meet them where they're at. And same with anyone, say, I get it. It's not easy yet, but let me sit down and work it with you and see if we can, make some progress here.
It's understanding, isn't it?
And by giving language, using language that has some momentum, it's not easy yet. I'm not saying, oh, come on, don't be silly, it's not hard. I'm saying, I'm absolutely with you, I get it. It's not easy yet, but let's see, Whereas go, yeah, it's hard. Then it's like a full stop. So yeah, I'm really conscious about using language that has movement, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Go ahead, Celeste.
With goal mapping, like with the
Mhm.
vision boards, writing down where your goals are going to lead you to, what journey is part of that. So not just that's where I want to be, but also breaking down the part of the journey to get to that goal. Would it be advisable to actually write sentences down so you can learn to repeat them, to teach your brain, like first thing in the morning, okay, I'm going to say these 10 sentences to activate my brain with that kind of vibrational energy of what we're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, saying it the way you want it and saying it often, really, I encourage people to say out loud what their goals are and share them with people who aren't going to laugh at you. Some people go, oh, don't be silly. And I think there's no goal that's too big. You know, I still have big goals that I may never achieve, and that's okay. They're still there. You know, that they still fill my heart. Yeah. So say them often. And I always encourage my clients to do a 4-minute visualization every morning about an aspect of their life after they've achieved everything they want. So I have a client, for example, who wants to do a TED Talk. So I said, great. I want you to spend tomorrow morning, close your eyes and imagine that moment that you walk off stage, you are high-fiving everyone, you have just changed the world. Nothing is ever going to be the same again. You've shifted the world on its axis. Everyone there has been transformed. You are hugging those nearest and dearest. You are high-fiving. They're wanting you to go back out on stage. Like, just spend 4 minutes there. And they go, oh, I can do that. I said, absolutely, you can. You know, and just really allowing every atom in the body to experience the feeling, because ultimately everything we do is for the feeling. So that's why she wants to do the TED Talk, to have that feeling of yes, I've changed something, you know.
And also with the brain, I mean, the brain is sometimes the master over us, you know, and that's the battle because of the recycle and the routine. So to fight against almost in the morning, no, I'm not going to let my body take over again. I'm going to think fresh, say fresh new things. And I like the way you said to imagine the feeling, how it was when he or she walked off stage. So it already happened. That's a really good technique and tool you just shared there. I really like that. Especially in the mornings, right, Kat? This is probably one of the most important parts of the day to go, no, I'm not going to do the whole same thought, same choice, same decision. You know, I sort of said that on the last podcast, but we sometimes stuck in that cycle. So the morning ritual is super important. What more techniques and tools and tips and suggestions, personal suggestions, you know, would you have for someone for their morning routine?
I find there are some people who love to get up and get at it. All right. Now, I love to get up early, but I know. I'm looking straight at you, Rafael.
Well, it is 4:30 in the morning here.
I know. Case in point. I love to get up about 5. And where I sit on a ridge on the Gold Coast, so I can see the ocean and I can see the sunrise, and I also have the bush at my door and I can hear the birds. All right. So I love, and I know how lucky I am, you know, and I love to just sit in that, make a cup of tea and just sit for a moment and get lost in that. And then do some writing, then do my visualization, and then start the day. Because once I have my visualization, and in that sitting, there'll be meditation, and it's probably about 20, 25 minutes, right? But after I've done the visualization, generally I am so pumped, then my day starts, you know, and then I get into it.
It's beautiful how you mentioned to connect with nature. I mean, the two of us ladies, we actually live very close to each other here in Australia. So we do. And, I really understand how you emphasize and maybe also connect with nature if you can, to see it, hear it, feel it. It's almost like you're centering yourself first into the reality and accepting where you are, your environment, and how to also start from there a little bit.
Right. And it doesn't need to, I mean, two of my children live in Melbourne, and they live in, one of them lives like on a quarter-acre block in the burbs, but the other one lives just in this little place, and there's just a little courtyard, and that's still okay. You can find nature in a pot plant.
Yeah.
You can find nature just sitting. You can, if you have a window, you can stare at the clouds and get lost in the clouds. You can find nature anywhere, and just to connect there, I think is really important. It's really just, well, we're so connected. I mean, that's where all of our energy comes from. That's right. That's where it all comes from, to reconnect and to just go, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is where I am.
One of the things a lot of people always talk about is like, oh, you have to get up early. But that is not necessarily true. I mean, I get up early, obviously, but for me, it's more about, some people have just a different time clock, right, that they're living with. But even if you get up at, maybe, listen, I have a friend of mine who lives in South Africa, but because they do a lot of business in the US, they've set their clocks up to be with the US Eastern time. So they live life differently. When everybody else is asleep, they're awake, they're doing things, they're doing business. So their clock, they've changed it in order to be successful. But their kids are living in a different time.
Wow.
So somehow,
now that's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a crazy dynamic, but they have to make time to be with their family as well. So it's very interesting when we can learn to understand from people, not just in our reality, but in the reality of the world, right? Because for some people, a morning routine may start at 10 a.m. For other people, it can start at 4 a.m. So the time is not what's important. What's important is what you do at that time, whatever time it is you get up. I have other friends that if you call them at 9 a.m., they will be mad at you because they're sleeping still, right? So, and I've been told many times, they're like, Rafael, you have a whole life before other people get up. I'm like, yes, I do. But that's my choice, right? And then there's other people who are night owls, and they have a life when other people are sleeping. So it's all this dynamic when we think about, what are we doing during our day? And that's truly, I think, what really matters. What are we allowing, right? When you talk about those 0.05% of energy, of messages that come into our life, what is it that we allow? What is it that we even want, right?
Correct. Because we can't actually process much more of that. So if we are processing, if our world feels really uncomfortable, if we feel that we're in a place where it's not, well, there's only one way to change it. Like, you are the one that can change it. If you can move, fine. But I know from my experience that I move and I take the problem with me, right? If I don't sort it out here, I take it with me. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, I'm not talking about, say, like, if you are in an abusive situation or something like that, completely different. All right, you need to escape from that for sure. But I'm talking about a perception of the world. There are some people who are just, they have a problem for every solution, right? That part of their brain that is in fight or flight is just on hyperactive and just sees everything that's wrong with the world. Now, I can be sitting right next to them and see everything that's right with the world. And we're sitting in the same space. It's just we're using different filters. So I always suggest, if someone wants something in their life to change, language is the easiest way to do it. Yes, with coaching, what we do is that unconscious programming, we unhook that unconscious programming at a really deep level, so that it's not that we change the past. We don't change the past. We don't erase memories. We don't do anything. But what we do is we change what you made the past mean about you. All right. So say things happened in your childhood and it made you think you were worthless or unlovable or whatever. Well, we can change how you feel about that. So now you don't have that programming and those filters following you the rest of your life, and that's really important, really, really important to sort of let go of that stuff and to recognize it. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Recognize I'm listening.
Okay. So, but it's just like all of us have these three core fears of unlovable or abandonment, and worthlessness and powerlessness. And it makes sense. Like, these are survival fears. If we're abandoned by the herd, we will die. If we are worth less than every other person in the tribe, we will get no resources and we will die. And if we're powerless and have no control over our lives, we will die, right? So it makes sense that we have these fears. But the reality is, and this is what I say to people who come in with really huge, like that unlovable abandonment fear, so that they abandon themselves all the time, and they people please and they do all of those things. That I say, look at a photo of you as a child. Look at a photo. If you had a photo of every day of your life, what day did that child become unlovable? Was it when they were 3.5? And they go, no, they were low. Yeah. So when were they unlovable? It never happened. It never happened. Intrinsically, you are always lovable and you are always worthy. But events happen and we make them mean we're unlovable or we're unworthy. And changing that really transforms people's lives.
Wow, that is powerful. I got to tell you, I maybe that's why I act like a child sometimes, because I am like the biggest kid at a party. If let's say there's an adults and then there's kids in one area. I'm going to hang out with the kids. I really am. And I'm like the craziest one amongst the kids, because I love the energy that kids bring. And sometimes adults, they bring good energy too, but then they also, their lenses, if you will, are dirty. Right?
Correct. Oh, I love that. Yes, that's exactly what's wrong. Our lenses get very dirty. Yeah. And having a clean lens and seeing it for what it is. Yeah. It's beautiful. So much joy. Well, you hang with the kids. I'd probably want to hang with the teenagers. I just think teenagers are the most
they're to me, they're kids too, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, right. I just find them extraordinary. The way that like that angst, and they're really trying to find their place in the world and sort stuff out and do the best that they can with so many insecurities. I just think, all power. All
May
power.
I ask, here in Australia, Kat, how would you like to see the Australian school system, or I think in general, the global school system, address exactly that with children, with teenagers? I mean, nowadays, teenagers, they have the sensory overload of, computer games, and then phone, iPad, laptop. So, and you were describing before, the consciousness is such a small percent. So if that's then overloaded with so much, social media and all these stories. And so what change would you like to see in maybe the school systems, if we're talking about this next generation, talking about Mother Nature, and this is the next generation of the teenagers who are learning the emotions, and emotions are obviously the product of experiences. So teaching them all of that. What or how would you like to see change?
I think the most powerful thing, if there could be a way to teach teenagers that other people's reactions to them actually have nothing to do with them. It's all that other person's stuff. Like the classic Mean Girls and the bully boys, and how they pick on the vulnerable, and that they're doing that because of their own insecurities, right? And if everyone could just understand that, where people can take their power back. Okay, our minds are going to make up stories. They have been making up stories forever, and they will, and we can't control the story. We will go insane trying. Where we can take our power back is recognizing that we have a choice in how we react to the story our mind tells us. So, for example, I was working with this 14-year-old girl, and she was really upset because she'd gone up to her group of friends at lunchtime and they'd all gone away. And she'd made that mean. I said, what did you make that mean about you? She said that I'm not good enough, that I'm, that they don't like me, that no one likes me. That I went, yeah, I can see how you could do that. And I said, what else could be true? She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, let's say one of them actually peed their pants and they didn't want anyone to know and they all had to run away. And she started laughing. I said, oh, what else? What if one of them was actually an alien, and that they were basically breaking through the skin. They have to run away and protect it from that. Or what if? And we started making up all these stories. And at the end, she was laughing. I said, okay, so which story is real? She goes, I don't know. I said, none of them are real. You're just making stuff up. I said, here's what's true. They might be picking on you, right? Yeah, right? They could be picking on you to make themselves feel better. Sorry. Go on.
No, it's just saying, because the brain has 60,000 thoughts a day, and especially explaining to them, you just constantly making things up in your reality too fast, instead of actually sitting back and going, what's really the reality in my perspective, and where is it actually coming from, and learning that it's the person that actually can't cope with the situation. It's just reacting to you being in their space.
Correct. And and if they're being mean girls, it's because somewhere deep inside them, they've got this deep insecurity that they're trying to hide, and that they're paralyzed with fear. The fears, the worthlessness plays out as, if I prove I am worth more than you, then at least I'll be safe. I won't be at the bottom of the pecking order. So it's this really competitive bully situation where I have to put someone else down so that I actually am worth more. And you see it all the time.
Is this going into that we have so many people that are acting out of survival mode? I mean, especially we've all experienced this, if it's New York or here in Australia, the last 3 years were very fear-driven, fear manipulated. And we're out of this season, but still a lot of people are maybe still reacting not out of the confident heart chakra or root chakra in this case, but they're just still in survival mode instead of actually receiving mode.
100%. And I would say with teenagers at school, I think back to my teenage years, you are in survival mode. It's like Lord of the Flies. Let's be honest. Teenage years can be like hell, They are, and you are in survival mode, and everyone is. So to be able to have, and this is, I guess, my big thing, we are feeling machines. And I know, Rafael, we talked about this last time, but everything we do is motivated to either chase a feeling, keep a feeling, avoid a feeling, right? Which is okay until it's not, because in all the chasing and avoiding, we're not being actually present with what's actually going on for us in the moment, because we don't want to deal with bad feelings, so that we'll do anything to avoid them. When the reality is that, do most people even know how to receive? Well, no, they don't.
So the
Hello,
sister,
Trudy.
right? Hello,
Yes,
hello.
my sister.
but
Love it.
she just asked such a great question, because we often talk about how can I speak differently or give out my love differently or give my attention to someone, but it's also receiving love, receiving that attention, receiving information. So that's just as important, that we allow ourselves to receive.
You know,
Yeah, I love
what
that.
people lack sometimes is accepting gratitude. Like when someone says, wow, I really love what you did, or I really, or commendation, they're like, no, I didn't do anything. Instead of saying, you know what, I did. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Just
Right?
that be grateful for someone even noticing, just even the smallest little thing. And people, because they don't want to seem crass, if you will, right? They don't want to seem like, oh, I'm full of myself. No, if somebody gives you a compliment, take it.
Mm.
And
How do
a
you
lot of,
feel,
well, here's the
right?
thing,
When,
right? A lot of people will say, oh, thank you, and then immediately they have to give you a compliment.
yeah.
Mm.
But why don't we just learn to receive the compliment and
Mm,
and soak it in,
Mm.
yeah. You know
and
what?
then give it.
Right? I believe it's because to receive truly, you need to be vulnerable, to allow space to receive, to receive a compliment and say, why, thank you, right? You have to be vulnerable. To receive a gift, you have to be vulnerable, because the person in control is the person with the gift. They know what it is, why they're giving it, when they're giving it, how they're giving it. The only thing you can control is how you receive it. So people diminish it and go, oh, you shouldn't have, or oh, don't it, right? And yet I know when I give someone a compliment or a gift and they receive it with grace, that's a gift to me, right? I feel great because, oh, yes.
It's very energy based. We were talking about words. If someone says like you did that well, we can say thank you, and that in itself will change the energy and the pattern inside of us by saying keywords like that. And you mentioned that before, morning routine, how to express yourself to the other people, saying what you really want, not what you don't want. So that's all sort of entwined into, I'm a huge cymatics fan, because you can see visually, literally in blood, how we react to either love or hate. And there's only the two, right? Love or fear. And I think we still underestimate, if you have 0 to 7 childhood, or within the first 15, 20 years, the language, the environment, the music around them, that's impact their cells, their cerebral fluid, their lymphatic system, their digestive system. That this is all what I believe, that powerful, energy, that vibration that you're receiving and then also giving out.
I 100% agree. I mean, look, we are 80% water, right? And look at those beautiful, that love crystal, to me, it is just extraordinary. Imagine if I was just filled with those.
Yeah.
How beautiful would that be? And the thank you and all of those beautiful things. Yeah. I really believe, like, we are energy. I mean, you can walk into a room and you can go, oh, wow, what's happening in here? Or you can walk into a room and go, oh, yeah, these are my people, right?
Yeah.
And but we feel it. And you're right about those first 7 years. That's where we construct our beliefs and our survival patterns. And, I know for me, my survival strategy, I learned that I needed to be the responsible one, the good one. My sisters called me the bossy one, because I had this thing where I had to look after them. And so that just went into overdrive micromanaging. That's how I they were sort of the things that I put in place that weren't resourceful. They're completely fear-based, because I thought, if I lose control here, something bad could happen. And I'm a child. I don't have a lot of higher order thinking skills here. And then that just became deep programming that I needed to unpick as an adult, you know, and that really, really wasn't easy. And I think for all of us, we've all got those where we have these traits that are not generous or resourceful or kind. And sometimes we don't even know where they come from. Sometimes we don't know how to get rid of them. They're so ingrained in who we are. But they've come from a childhood message and childhood programming, 100%. And to be able to unpick that is really powerful. And just let it go. Yeah.
Part of the NLP goal mapping, where you almost make someone write down where they maybe believe childhood, where does the fear come from, where does, you know, abandonment issues, rejection issues or rejection trauma, that people write that down, where they think maybe from the female side, so mothers, aunties, sisters, and then sort of also maybe the fathers, the brothers, the uncles. What would you say to all of that?
Yeah, so what tends to happen with the NLP, because with NLP, you do like the traditional NLP processes, and then in order to get practitioner or master practitioner training, you also need to do some time-based therapy work. And there's timeline therapy and there's matrix therapies. And I train people in matrix therapies, which really gets into this unconscious programming. All right. And it really helps you disconnect from the negative influences of your parents. Now, I'm not saying parents are, I'm putting my hand up, right? So I've got 4 kids, and 2 of them have done this work, and I wish the other 2 would. Because I believe that anything less than nurturing is abuse. And I have been an abusive parent, because there have been times when I have absolutely been less than nurturing. All right. And all abuse causes trauma. Bottom line, right? It does. And so for my kids, it's really important to me that the coping mechanisms that they used when I was less than nurturing don't become these deeply ingrained trigger things. But also as well, what we see our parents do becomes our norm. And I know, like Rafael, you talked last night, you have broken free of the most extraordinary childhood, right? But what I found, I was determined, look at that, 100%, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I was determined not to be a parent like my parents. And yet there were moments when I was, right? And so this work for me was really important to uncouple from that, so that I no longer have these unconscious superhighways that when I'm short on resources, resilience, and energy, I would just take the shortcut home, right? Rather than my preferred scenic route. So yeah, so many things there. Yeah.
May I ask, do you take on families as well? Because we were just talking about your experience and your relationship to your teenagers and children, and they're now able to see how you openly can speak about it and then connect it to their own lives. I mean, that is the most beautiful and extraordinary bond between an adult almost and their parents, because they're not little children anymore. So may I ask, do you offer that with your service, and is that something you would recommend?
I absolutely believe, I've had people want me to work with their children, and I will not work with their children until I've worked with the parents. Because the most powerful thing any of us can do for our children is to show up as the best version of ourselves. All right. So that, for example, I was massive facilitator. I facilitated everyone else's life. I put everyone else first. What would I teach my kids? Put everyone else first, and to not live your dream and not live your passion. I would say to them, don't die wondering. If there's something you want to do, you go chase it. You live your dream. I would say it, And yet I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to do. Right? Since I've done this work, all right, I can stand on my path and I can speak about following my passion. Not, there are plenty of people who want to point and go, oh, you should do that, and aren't prepared to do it themselves. Right. The really powerful influences are those who have done it.
Yeah.
So as parents, I always say, I'll work with you first. And it is extraordinary because, all communication is an energy exchange. When a parent heals their deep-seated triggers, the energy has to change between the members of the family because they've changed. And it's just this beautiful ripple of energy that just goes out, and so that's always where I start. And there are children that I've worked with. I tend to work, I show parents how to work with young children with the processes that we do and how they can make it a game and chat to them and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I've worked with teenagers. But yeah, definitely parents first, always. There's just no point working with a child if the parent's not prepared to do the work. That's the truth.
Kat, I work with kids and adults every day, every single day. And one, I've been told that I'm like the Pied Piper because I get kids to do things in the parent. Just last week, I had 2 parents come to me and they go, how do you do it? I go, what do you mean? And they're like, my kids are not listening to me. You walk into the room, boom. They're like, their eyes are on you. Every move you make, they're paying attention to you. I said, well, it's because the way I treat them. They're like, what do you mean? I said, because I give them value. Right? So
100%.
all of a sudden they're like, yeah, that's my guy because he sees me. Right? And a lot of times we have children and it's my house or the highway, right? It's my rules, but we're not listening. I truly believe that a great parent is only a great parent because they're listening to their kids, because the kids are put into our lives to teach us how to be a parent. Those little guys don't come with instructions. Right? No, they don't.
Oh, no, they do not.
They do not. But if we truly listen to their ambitions, their desires, their hopes, their frustrations, their anger, then we can help them. But when we're only thinking with our mind, with our thoughts, how can we help anybody? We can't.
And that's where I fell down for a lot of years because I was just trying to micromanage, and that I was so unresourceful. And so was I doing the best I could? Yes. I was just very resourceful. We had our own business. I was doing an MBA. I had 4 kids under 6. I had this, I had that. Guess what? Not a happy outcome, And it just, and I think, no, if I could have just stopped. None of that was more important than my kids. None of that. I was believing all the stories, right?
You mentioned before you work with the parents and then they can go home and like make it into a game or some form of communication. So let's say, once a week dedicating time, and you mentioned it before, Rafael, it doesn't matter if it's 3:00 in one country, 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. It's never about what time it is. It's what you're doing with the 24 hours that you have. So I know it's, some parents will roll their eyes and go, I don't have time for this, but at least once a week for an hour, there is time to sit down. And would you then recommend, Kat, that parents just share their experiences, how they grew up, and maybe that's why they're reacting like this to their kids? So it's actually just sharing raw and real emotional material from their childhood. So they can go, oh my God, Mom, now I totally understand why you like that to me, or Dad, or siblings. And I'd
I
love to
do. And
hear.
I believe that we need to find a way to communicate what we're feeling without blaming the other person for it.
Mm.
All right. So there's this example, like about 12 or 18 months ago, I was doing lots of filming for my online program, and I was getting my husband to help, set up the studio and and it'd take a while. And I was really busy. I was doing workshops and a lot of one-on-one clients, and I was also doing some contract work in Brisbane. And there was some months where I was only getting 3 days off a month. Like it was I was probably going to say it's too much. Anyway, he said to me, we're sitting down, and he said to me, so when are you thinking of doing the rest of the filming for your program? All right. Now, I just went, Justy, when you said that, I made it mean that you think that I'm slacking off, or I'm not really interested like that. And I am now having a really big feeling. And he just went, oh, no, babe. You know I love a plan. I don't care if you're doing it in 12 months' time. I just love a plan, right? And it was over. Now, right?
Yeah.
Done. In the past, he would have said, when are you thinking of doing da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And I would have gone, are you kidding me? Have
Right.
you any idea? Da-da-da-da-da. He would not have been expecting that and copped this laughter. Then he would have asked us. We would have then not talked for a few days and then gone around, this is something else now in the minefield that we don't know how to talk about.
Mm.
So being able to communicate and say, listen, when you said that, I've made it mean this, so acknowledging the story in your head, and now I feel like just the power in that.
Mm.
Or even, if you go home, like you've been triggered by something at work or at school, and you go, when they did that, I've made it mean that I'm just, a piece of rubbish, or I'm blah, 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 blah. And now I feel really, really sad and unhappy. And just articulate it and acknowledge that my mind has made up a story, and now that's created a feeling in my body. And that is just really powerful, because what you're doing is you're allowing your body to have the feeling. It is safe to have a feeling that doesn't feel good. Let's not try and change it. Let's just go, I'm going to have the feeling. Because
Yes.
all it is, right? I'm just going to have the feeling. I'm not going to try and stop it. I'm not going to try and avoid it. I'm just going to have this really crummy feeling. I'm going to feel the heavy weight in my chest. I'm going to feel the knot in my stomach. I'm going to feel the tension in my shoulders. Because when we drop out of our head and we drop into our body and we sit with the feeling, what happens is you'll be sitting there going, oh, this pain in my chest, this on my stomach. And then it'd be like, oh, it's gone. The only reason we keep having a feeling is because the story keeps feeding it.
Mm.
So if we cut that, there were some studies that were done, and they fired a neuron or something, and they looked at the discharge of the chemicals that create the feelings in the body. And if you don't keep firing it, the longest that you can have a feeling, I think, is about 45 seconds.
Wow.
Now,
that's
right? The reason that we have them for so long is because we keep feeding it. Oh, and then they said that, and I should have said that, and how dare they do that? And now I'm going to do this, and and we keep feeding it.
But it's then usually addiction that the person has created, that addiction of negative thinking, like with addiction, not in terms of substances, but addiction in behavioral patterns, behavioral thinking, that cycle. Yeah. So I guess for a lot of people, as you said, you accept that cycle just happened again, but now I can reset that mind frame and not, continue with that addiction of thinking negative. Because I think a lot of people don't realize when they think of addiction, it means not just substance, it means how you feel, how you react, what you think, what you tell yourself. And it takes programs like yours, and that's really that key point, is learning how to be in charge, the master of your thinking and of your body as well.
Mm.
Well, you have a choice, you know, and this is if everyone just understood, because a lot of people don't want to accept that they have a choice, because as long as I'm in victim mode and I blame everyone else for what's wrong, I never have to change or do anything. Right? It's always someone else's fault. And while that may feel comfortable for a while, life never changes, because the only person who can change it is you. And to get out of that victim mode and go, okay, this is not a great situation. And let's face it, if we are all co-creating our existence with 8 billion people and Mother Nature, things are going to go south for us occasionally, right? It's not going to end well, all right? So we are victims of circumstance, 100%. And then acknowledging this is a really yucky thing that happened. This is not fair. This is not anything. I don't deserve this. And then either you have a choice to either stay there and keep surgery, or you go, okay, well, it is what it is. Now what can I do?
How can you change
take the
it?
first step out, right? Take that first step out. And it's there. That's where you go from being at effect and being a victim in your life to taking back your life and being at cause, you know. And we all have that choice.
It's a little bit the second time you're not the victim anymore. So with mistakes or, you know, things when you often go, this happened, that happened, this person's so evil. And then often we have to ask, well, how did you get yourself into that situation with that person in that environment at that time? That's going back to the choice of what we're doing at either 3 a.m. in the morning or at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So what would you have to say to those that are maybe stuck in, you know, they were once a victim, but, you know, second, third time, fourth time, that's not victim anymore?
Well, can I jump? Can I jump in? I just want to say that I've known professional victims. That's what they do. They are professional at being a victim. They want everybody to pity them. They want everybody to, you know, say, "Oh my gosh." I actually have a client who, amazing person, but she's always playing the victim, always. And she comes across, and this happened to me, that happened to me, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to believe this. So she's always she's definitely a drama queen and always playing the victim. And so now I've learned to say, okay, how did that happen? And why did that happen? And all of a sudden they're like, well, because, and I'm like, oh, okay. I said, so when is it going to happen again? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? And I said, okay, now I understand her, because she's always looking for, I'm the victim. I will always be the victim. This is the role I play. And until they can get out of it, they can't, you know.
Well, she's right. Right, she's right. She's decided that's the role she's going to play. So 100% she's right. She's going to stay there. I always say to people who are in that, I say, okay, so do you want to change it? Do you want to change it? Because if they don't, there's nothing I can do.
Or why?
Do you want to change it? Like, what would happen if, and you know, you could change this so that this didn't happen anymore?
You know, I love the fact that I love the fact that you're talking about the words, right? Instead of what would happen is what would have to happen, right? What would you need to do? Because a lot of times people will say what will have to happen, and they'll blame everybody else. And instead of saying, what would you have to do? How can you make a change? Right.
But I always ask as well, I go, so what would happen if nothing ever changes? What's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20
You'll
years
be the
from
same
now?
person.
Right? Is that what you want?
Mm.
Is that what you want? You know, and it's curious to me that, and I guess people feel safe in victim, because in victim you don't have to make a decision, right? Because it's everyone else's fault. So to disempower yourself like that, there's got to be some deep wounding somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's whether or not you're uncomfortable enough to change it, because none of us change unless we're in pain. That I know to be true. We keep making excuses and powering on until we don't have a choice anymore. Yeah.
And then decision making is more like a T junction where you don't want to be. Whereas prior, you know, if you learn decisions, you're not at a T junction. There's more options to follow a journey or a path or a new goal. I like the way you just said, you know, if you're a victim, you don't need to make decisions because apparently it's up to everyone else. Professional victim.
Yeah, you have. And look at you now, you little champion.
He's glowing now.
But here's the thing, accepting that, right? Even for Prue to say that, you know, that she's been a victim, for a professional victim for 40 years. But it's when we truly, and I always tell somebody, you know, before you do anything, look in the mirror, but make sure that that mirror is clean.
Yeah.
Because the
right.
image that's coming back, we want it to be as pure as possible, as clean as possible, as honest as possible. Because a lot of times we take other people's thoughts and ideas about us and we make them for ourselves. We take what everyone else sees about us, and we keep piling it on, and then what happens to us? We're walking heavy, right? And we should not take how someone else feels about us. We have
Isn't
to
it so
love
liberating?
ourselves. Yes. Love.
I agree. I just wanted to acknowledge, Prue, I'm going to be a bit selfish here. Like when I talk about, you know, and I said when I get the parents to do the work, right? When I started this work, all my family thought I was insane. They thought I joined a cult. What are you doing? Your money, I guess you can, right? Spend it any way you like. All right. Now, because I've got 4 sisters. Now, 2 of them, Prue being one of them, they are now coaches. They've done all the trainings. They've transformed their lives. Now they're also affecting their children's lives. Now, I have never preached to anyone, all right? They just wanted what I now had, right? That's the power of the ripple. You don't have to say or do anything. Your transformation just becomes something that draws other people in. Yeah, right?
Bring you to the show next time.
Yeah, right. Correct. It's that beautiful that I don't even know for me where that ripple stops. I don't think it does. You know, that's the power of doing our own inner work and truly being able to stand in your feelings, communicate your feelings, be secure with who you are. One of my clients yesterday sent me a message going, oh, I am so, you know, I feel so free being able to be my authentic self. And I just said, our authentic self is the safest place to be. You are so safe there. Like, you know, who can hurt you when you're being your authentic self? It's only the masks that are fragile. You know? Yeah.
You know, one of the, you talked earlier about your future pace, if you will, or your future self. And one of the things that I'm always teaching some of my clients is, for example, if somebody comes to me and they want to learn martial arts, right? They come to me with zero knowledge or what they've seen on TV, right? Or in movies. They come in and they do punching and kicking and it, you know, it's not effective. So when I teach them how to be effective with it, their perception changes. And then I ask them, how would that make you feel? How would you feel if right now I gave you a black belt? Oh my God, that would be incredible. I said, yes, beautiful. I said, but I can't give you a black belt. They're like, why not?
Correct.
I said, because you have to give yourself the black belt. They're like, what? That's crazy. I said, I cannot make you a black belt. You need to make you a black belt. I am just going to give you the tools. You have to choose the tools that are going to make you that person. You have to choose. So when I'm helping somebody, even with financial situations, I say, well, how much money do you want to have? They're like, oh, I don't know, $1 million. I'm like, okay. How's that feel? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, right. But what if you did right now? Right this second, you have $1 million. What are you going to do besides going shopping? What are you going to do? Right? So all of a sudden, they're like, well, I can do this, I can do that, I can do. So I'm like, so you see the possibilities. That's what I'm asking you to look at. The possibilities of what you can do with your life, your future, right? It is, I am possible. It is possible. So the possibilities that we can bring into our own existence is limited by the image we keep playing in our head. Maybe I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Meanwhile, when last night I had 4 women that came in and I did a kickboxing session with them. They were just coming in to find out if they even wanted it. One said she lost 20 pounds. And I asked each one, why are you here? I said, I'll be honest with you. You don't need to be here. I said, why are you here? I lost 20 pounds. I said, good for you. I said, are you done? No, I got so much more to do. Okay, great. The other one, why are you here? Well, I want to change the way my body feels. I said, okay. Why are you here? To the other one, I want to do what she's doing. I said, really? I said, I forgot what she said. What is it that you want? Forget what she wants. So each one of them, and I said to them, by the way, I don't accept everybody as a member. I don't. I said, if you're not mentally ready to make a difference, then I don't want you as a member. Because guess what? Who are you going to blame when you don't
Correct.
have the results?
I
You're going
love
to
that.
blame me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't want you as a member. And
Correct.
I did not accept them last night, by the way. 4 people.
All
That could have
four.
been more money in my pocket. But
It's not about the money, right?
I chose, they were not ready for the help. And I said, do me a favor. I said, we're not doing anything tonight. Go home, talk to your husbands, talk to your friends, talk to each other. They were all friends, 4 of them. I said, when you're ready to make that transformation, come talk to me. I said,
Yeah.
until that
Yeah.
time, until you're fully ready, I said, if you're going to come once a week, don't bother. You're going to do nothing. I said, you have to come at least minimum twice a week. And then you also have to make a commitment, not only to me, but to your finances. Can you commit to, is this worth your time? Is this worth your investment? Because if you want to come and you want to lose weight or you want to feel better about you, you have to make that mental investment, that financial investment, that time investment. Until that time, we're not talking.
I
I said,
love
but
it.
I'm here for you when you are
Right.
ready.
That's what I always say. Like, I've worked with thousands of people and I've never fixed anybody.
Mm. So
So,
guess what time it is? It
Thanks.
is time, right? So Celeste is just an amazing, amazing human being. And when we talked,
Thank
the
you.
first time, the
I said
first
thank you.
time.
Receiving mode.
Keep receiving. I'm going to get more.
You.
The first time we had such an amazing experience together, and then we kept in touch. And what wound up happening is she's like, we got to do something. We got to do something together. And I said,
So
yeah.
many amazing things to share.
And then we went ahead and we did a 3-day in a row event. And then we said, that was great, but we need to do more. So
More.
now we said, yes, let's figure out what we want to do, who we want to have. And is it going to just be you and me, or do we need to bring incredible people to share what we're looking for? We're looking for the truth in us, and we're looking for the truth in the world. And so the Seer Show was born. So Celeste, thank you for pushing me. And look what we've created. So thank you.
That's right. We have extraordinary connections. And again, we talk about connecting with people, connecting with the world. And I think with the Seer Show, we are able to create that energy, the words, the keywords, the knowledge with extraordinary guest speakers, just like you, Kat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
I love being here. I love your energy so much. I love what you're pumping out into the world. It's so beautiful to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
I'm taking it in.
I know, me too. I feel like I'm having a big warm hug right now.
We are. And I am a hugger. So when you do come to New York, we're looking at July 13th through the 16th. We're having a huge event. It's called Heroes Rising Apex. So mark your calendars. We are going to hug everybody.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, Kat. Once again, I'm just wanted to make sure again for our viewers and listeners, we've got the email address, we have the website. So especially we mentioned the parent. Hi, Renia. She is an extraordinary
mom.
But thank you so much for, first of all, in this episode, you've shared a lot of very good tips and tools. So thank you for that. And also for sharing the fact that you're like, yes, I can work with parents, with teenagers, with children. Anyone is welcome at any age and any journey of their life. Yeah.
Just losing
I want
to bud.
Nope.
I want to talk about and I know we have to go, but I'm training one of my instructors on communication. And one of the things I said to her is that we have to talk slightly differently to everyone, the different audience that's in front of us, because I'm training her to teach 3 to 5 year olds. I'm training her to teach, 7 to 9 year olds, 9 to 12 year olds. And I'm teaching her to teach other teenagers, and I'm teaching her to teach adults. I mean, over 20, 30s and 40s. And I said, the communication has to be slightly different for your audience, because they're going to perceive the messages that you give them differently. So, and I love the fact that you talked about that earlier. And I think that this episode is too short for what we're trying to accomplish here. So thank you so much for being here with us and letting us know that our words have meaning, because it's active listening that is going to change us. Because I was role playing with her, and she only listened to what she wanted to listen. And I said, tell me what I say back to me what I said to you. And it was not what I said at all. And so I had a third person there, and I said, is that what I said? And they're like, no, that's not what you said. And I said, see, so I'm teaching you to actively listen, not just interpret it for yourself, but try to understand the words so that you can truly be an active listener, because when we can actively listen, man, the world changes, doesn't it?
Right.
It would.
And actively speak, intentionally
Oh,
actively
yes.
speak. Okay. Our words are magic. We cast spells that can transform someone's life with a passing comment, or we can curse people and really hurt them. Like, our words are so powerful once again, right? We have magic right here, right here.
Throat chakra.
Mm.
I like the way, Rafael, just quickly, you also just mentioned the technique and actually having the other person repeat that. And that is, it's not always it needs the right space, the right time with the right person, to not be too challenging or too confronting to the other, aggravating almost a little bit. But getting the other person to repeat the sentence is quite a good technique as well, to teach them to listen more. 11111, I just saw on the time.
Ah, yes.
Yes. So thank you again for being an
Oh,
exceptional
you.
guest. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have loved this. Lovely
You're
sharing it with you this time too, Celeste.
Yes, that's right. With electricity and light.
Well, this will not be your last visit. You know that, right?
Oh, you can't keep me away if you try. And I'm going to keep pouring
We'll
at the
get
door.
you.
Yes.
All right,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Thank you.
Good
Have an
evening,
amazing, and for the people
Bye.
who are up with me early in the morning, thank you. For the people who are going to sleep soon, have a
Yeah.
great night. Whatever it is, make the best of your day. Make it exceptional.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.